Ashley Berrysmith, New Zealand Entrepreneur for the year 2007. It's a pleasure and privilege for us to present to you today. 2007 through to 2008 has been a very big year for New Zealand Fresh Cuts and our associated companies. And as it has done for everybody else in business, it's thrown us quite a few challenges. But one thing that we've learned is that they are just that, challenges, hurdles that can be jumped. Because unlike finance companies, Robbie Deans or Winston Peters, horticulture in New Zealand is most definitely here to stay. But it's how we approach the future that's important, and we'd like to share some of that with you over the next 20 minutes or so. To get to where we have and achieve the success and the market share that we now enjoy has though taken quite a bit longer. The real story started way back when Ashley was slim and trim. You remember when Moses was a boy? And just for you, we've trawled back through the archives, got Ashley here in the studio so he can tell you how his original vision began to take shape. Okay, Ashley, this is?
Our first factory. Well, you've got to start somewhere. Buckets, lots of them. That's how we originally grew our sprouts. And in those days, we really didn't worry about the minimum wage.
Oh, the minimum age by the looks of it. Okay, why the pool?
Well, we were learning as we went. Great drainage for a start. I guess as New Zealand didn't have alfalfa at that time, this was not so much best practice, but the only practice. We had to build everything ourselves. We had to invent the machinery.
And as your fame started to grow, by the look of it, so did your beard. It must have been quite exciting.
It was. They were pioneering days, although I often got into strife for borrowing and not returning kitchen utensils. The first vehicle, the trusty Bedford van, and one of our very first drivers.
Obviously been reading a Margaret Mayhew book.
This is a great example of having to create. There were no growing racks anywhere in the world, so we had to design them.
And these bigger buckets?
No, automated buckets.
Oh, automated. Now these look familiar.
Well, yes, I guess we got the design about right. It's largely remained the same over the last 20 years, and of course we exported this technology.
Now, at one time you were producing the most alfalfa on the planet.
Well, yes, but it took us a while to get there. In those early days, it was plain old Kiwi drive and ingenuity that kept us going.
And keep going you most certainly did. So how long did it take to progress from, let's say, the buckets and the pool to the new factory?
Well, just a couple of years really, but getting bigger, of course, had its challenges. And that has been a consistent factor in the growth of the business to this very day. But they are just that, challenges to be overcome.
And as the business got bigger, I can see that the beard got smaller.
Yes, and the girth got larger.
One thing I've noticed, in nearly every photo, your staff are always smiling.
Yes, and I hope that's the case in the video we'll see later. You see, this business is just not about my vision. It would never have worked that way. We have to get that vision over to our staff. They need to feel they have a stake in our success. You know, we started out as a backyard business. Well, it's just that over the years, the backyard has got a whole lot bigger.
Well, things have grown quite a bit since then. Now, what you might not know is that Ashley sold the business in the early 90s, and under his non-competitive agreement, he wasn't allowed to grow or sell anything green. Yep. You've guessed it, that's when he went into carrots. Anyway, after a few years, he actually bought the company back. But how do you grow a company from one that, well, just a few years ago was selling 3-kilo bags of mescaline to one that now runs over 200 lines? Well, as we've heard, your people are key to your success. Invest in them and you're investing directly into the business. Also crucial in terms of our growth was that we didn't take money out. To use a farming metaphor, we ploughed it right back in, confident in the knowledge that eventually we'd reap a great harvest. But let's backtrack just a little, because you know, when Ashley first thought of selling salad in a bag, Kiwis weren't quite ready.
I tried the salad business back in the early 90s and nobody was interested, couldn't sell a single bag.
But persistence paid off, and now consumer expectations are higher than ever.
We produce product harvest on our own farms at 6 to 7 o'clock in the morning. 10 o'clock an order comes in. We have to process it, get it to a distribution centre by 5 o'clock, and it's in the store by 3 the next morning. That's every day of the week. That's incredible, intense pressure on every day, but it's exciting.
And when you get out in the field, down on some of the farms with the teams, you find that excitement has filtered right down. You see, best practice for fresh cuts is all about inclusion. Farm manager Chris Butler.
We get an awful lot of support down here from, to the board or whatever, and any suggestions which we make are pretty much taken on board straight away.
A great example of that would be the enormous windmills you might see down at Rangariri. Chris had seen these used on viticulture, and on his say-so, the Frost Boss was installed to combat those crisp Waikato mornings to great effect. Communication is the key. The team's enthusiasm for the business stimulates them to research and come up with solutions to problems. And of course, brand new GPS tracking systems enable us to take our hands off the wheel of the tractor while keeping our hand firmly on the rudder of the business. And as everyone knows, GPS gives you growth in many areas.
Reduce our cultivation costs by probably 40%, and increases our speed for getting groundwork done by about 20%.
You know, whenever you get growers and farmers together, it's a bit like Miss World. Come on, think about it. You're all talking figures. Who can you sell to? Who's buying? And what will they pay? And let's face it, they're not always the figures we want to hear. That's why we went for vertical integration. We needed to control the supply chain. Now, it's one thing to think and talk about doing it, and another to actually